I'm Matt Fouts, director of the park.
Lynnlee Schmidt. I'm integrator at Tanganyika Wildlife Park.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Rossifari podcast. All right, y'all. So we are back at Tanganyika for this week's episode. And as you heard in their introductions, we are talking to two of the bigwigs at the zoo, Matt and Lynnlee. And I am really excited about sharing this episode with y'all because we dig deep into a lot of the things that I'm very passionate about in the zoological field, and also that frankly are big topics of discussion in the field right now. We end up talking about culture and how important that is, the evolving role of zookeepers and their connection to the public, how you get people to care about animals at more than just a surface level of excitement, what transparency looks like and doesn't look like. These are all things that y'all hear about from me all the time. And that's this entire episode. And I love it so much. I think that Matt and Lynnlee have some really cool things to say. I think that they do a great job owning that they have been learning as they go. And one of the things that really stands out to me in this episode is how honest these two are about everything from, making mistakes and growing and learning to, owning the fact that Tanganyika is a unique facility and why that is. And they even talk a little bit about how, maybe they've gotten some abuse from some other facilities because of it. And yet this is a very joyous episode. There's a lot of really great, really deep conversation. I am so excited for y'all to dig in. Of course, before we can do that, I need to remind y'all to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the Tuesday interview episodes or Friday Zoo News episodes. I need to remind y'all to follow along on the socials at Rossifari and on TikTok at Rossifari Pod. And it's been a while since I've said this, but if you like what you're hearing, please leave a rating and, if possible, a review on whatever place you listen. It actually is the number one way to help this podcast be found by more people and continue to grow. So that is obviously very important to me. And if you could do that, I would super duper appreciate it. Now, the other thing that I have to tell you about this episode before we dive into it is that I planned literally since the day that I recorded this was going to be my season 5 finale episode. I always aim to have the last episode of a season be super thought-provoking and really just hit everything that I want to hit. And I was so sure I was going to do that. And then Tanganyika announced the birth of a pygmy hippo. And y'all, I cannot tell you how excited I am about that and how excited they are about that. And so I decided to scoot this up towards, it's still towards the end of the season here. We've got another episode or two to go. But instead of making this the season finale, I wanted to drop it early so that all of you who listen know to go to Tanganyika's socials and check out this baby pygmy hippo because it is adorable. And we are about a year removed from Muden being born. And now you can have a new baby pygmy hippo to obsess about. So I moved it up. And I wanted to do that for Tanganyika, but in my mind, this is such a great episode that it's a season finale without actually ending the season. So with that said, I will stop talking about the interview and actually let you listen to it. So here is my interview with Lynnlee and Matt from Tanganyika Wildlife Park. Enjoy.
Lynnlee Schmidt, and we are in Hawkins Estate at Tanganyika Wildlife Park, our Airbnb that's on property. I'm integrator here at the park, which means I support all of the departments in achieving our goals.
Wow, that's a really cool made-up title. I like that.
Yeah. I had a cooler one before. I was chief of connections before I was integrator.
Ooh.
So.
Integrator sounds more intimidating.
Does it?
Yeah.
Maybe not as cool, but she integrates.
Yeah.
So I'm Matt Fouts. I'm the externally director of the park. My role, like Lynnlee's role as integrator, mine is visionary for the park here. And so most people are like my wife are like, did you vision today? I don't know if they think I do a lot of mushrooms every day and just try to have visions, but visionary and so and like Lynnlee said, we're at the Hawkins Estate at Tanganyika. So the acronym is HEAT. So we're bringing the heat today.
I love it. And staying in this place has been the most ridiculous experience. I don't even know. I couldn't find my wife today, and she was here, and I just couldn't find her for the record. But we are sitting upstairs looking over cheetahs as we talk, because you can just see the cheetah breeding center from here. There's a cheetah right there wagging its tail, another one walking. I'm actually amazed I've been able to do any interviews because, there are cats right there. Right? Yeah. And this place is absolutely incredible. And so, I joke about your title and you joke about your title, but we've had a lot of weird titles today. And I feel like that goes into maybe part of what sets Tanganyika apart. And so why is that? And what is the idea behind having a visionary and all of these other titles?
So, the visionary and integrator come directly from a system called EOS, or Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's based on a book by Gino Wickman called Traction. So anyone that reads the book, it's basically a system on how you operate your facility, your organization, and so we operate on that system called EOS. And so that's where those roles come from. Like they try to kind of get rid of titles, but externally in the world, like if you tell someone visionary or integrated, like, I don't know what that is. But if you say I'm a zoo director, then everyone in the industry knows what kind of that entails. So we still have those titles. But I do think a lot of it comes to just, culturally, we're not just going to do what everyone else is doing or try to have the same titles. Like we really have been very intentional with our culture, especially over the last several years of doing, what we think is best and trying to provide for our team and for the animals. And so that's, it does speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. I let you answer because I think titles are kind of your jam and getting creative with them. Definitely externally, sometimes like chief of connections everyone was like, what do you do? What does that mean? And I'm like, well, if an animal and a human are meeting, I'm in charge of that, connections. So it was very applicable. It talked about exactly what I did, even though maybe not everybody understood what it was.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it's funny actually hearing you say that because it's something that I noticed here and have even mentioned in some of the other interviews that stands out to me is that at almost every facility that I've been to and done experiences at, and by the way, that's one or two of them now, we've done this a couple times, there is such a defined role in every part of it where the trainer does the training and the interpreter does the interpretation and the, whatever guest experience takes you to this line, but never crosses it. You can't go over that line, and here everyone does all the things and, and are trained and cross-trained. And I don't even know what some of the titles of the different people that I've met are. Titles were not described, which I actually never thought of until just now. But approaching it from somebody with a lot of experience with this, I went to the cheetah behind the scenes and somebody walked me up and was talking about stuff and somebody was there with the animal and I was like, okay, cool, interpreter trainer. And then as the experience went on, those roles kind of shifted. And then as they were going to do a run with the cheetah to show me how they interact with them and do the lure thing with them, they were discussing, well, do you want to do this part or this part, this part? And I was like, you guys do all the things. That's really cool. And I really think more and more that's what the industry is going to pivot to, or at least needs to, hopefully will pivot to. And that's been my number one takeaway from being here is I feel like Tanganyika is maybe the place that people should be looking to in the industry to figure out how to create more authentic connections with animals and deeper connections with animals without crossing into that roadside zoo mentality that we're going to have 30 people 20 times a day handling this animal or whatever. And it's been astonishing. I mean, I'm honestly, with the exception of honey badgers and kind of cheetahs, there aren't a lot of species here that are near like the top of my list. But the experiences have blown me away. And if you would have told me that my number one biggest connection at this park would be with a giraffe, an animal that I've met hundreds of times, literally, you know, every time I go to a facility, they like throw in a giraffe feeding and they're like, if you even want. And I always do. Yeah. But like, I bonded so much with one of the giraffes here, and it was such a beautiful thing. And yeah, I find it amazing. If y'all want to talk about that vision a little bit, I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was visiting with another zoo director just this week, and you know they're a bigger zoo than us, and they have, you know, there's some differences. I think a somewhat of a divide in the industry even on animal interactions, and it tends to swing one way or the other as far as is the public worthy or should we allow them to have interactions with animals, or you know, is it safe, is it ethical? Like there's this kind of pendulum. And you know, AZA has had the research for years talking about, like you said, interacting with animals is by far the most powerful way to touch people's hearts and to get them involved and whatnot. And so in talking with the zoo, that, I mean, they're a big zoo that hundreds of thousands of people, and they're just, I think some of it was that, I think their mindset was that if you're going to do all the experiences that we do, you kind of have to do it in that roadside manner, and where animals are forced to do things and they don't have choice, and you're just, and you know, on a scale that we're doing it, you don't have to do it that way, but it does take you to kind of retool. Like, I don't honestly believe that most big zoos could do it, and I don't honestly know that they should. Right. I think that they're serving a certain area of the market and exposing tons and tons of people to animals, which is great for everybody. And it would be really hard for them to, I guess, do experiences that the way we do them, because there's a lot of time and a lot of effort that goes into creating those experiences and maintaining those experiences and those behaviors. Like, our team is phenomenal. And so, yeah, it is different. And part of our vision. So like, I'll let Lynnlee talk to the conservation funnel and kind of how that works. And that's kind of, I had this vision, but like, you know, so I have the visions, the ideas, and then she like makes them very tangible concepts that people can easily get. And so the conservation funnel was definitely, I think, something she'd already come up with, but the two mixed very, very well. Yeah,
I'll talk about that in just a second. I think early on in my career, I was working at a facility where we did a lot of ambassador work, and we wanted to add lemurs. And we were an AZA facility, and they're not for primates as ambassadors. And I was young enough that I put it out on like the listserv, and I was like, hey, who uses lemurs as ambassadors, without knowing that there was this big white paper and this stance against primates as ambassadors. And so I got schooled a little bit and had someone take me what they felt like was under their wing and show me, and his exact words were, why you can't have a lemur live by itself in a box to be an ambassador. And so that was his view of ambassadors, was right, that they live in smaller enclosures, they're singly housed, they're often hand raised, and that doesn't have to be the case. As a matter of fact, that usually doesn't work. Like, when you hand raise an animal and you're relying on relationship and you don't provide it with the things that it needs to thrive, it hits. And a lot of people think it's hormonal, right? It hits sexual maturity. But I see it as like, it hits the terrible twos that everybody hits. Right. Where like, wait, I have my own sense of self. I don't need you, my mother, as my protector. You can't tell me what to do. And if you have not planned to have a positive reinforcement contingency at that point, you're going to lose that animal eventually, or only one person will be able to work it, right? The person that raised it. So that's something I'm super passionate about, and I think is a misconception. Even the most recent decisions by AZA about primates as ambassadors are based on the thought process that all primate ambassadors have to be hand-raised or singly housed in order to be ambassadors. You've been to our lemur island. They live in their social groups.
Only a couple times.
Yeah. Our ruffed lemurs were all parent-raised. They live in, social groups. And yet, because we have this positive reinforcement contingency, they work for those experiences and are happy to engage with the public for, treats and sometimes even affection. And 8 different people can work them. To your point with cheetahs, it's like, who wants to do this part? Everyone's cross-trained because we think that's better for the animal. So I think that's something that we do really well. Matt and I were trying to figure out how to say, like, we're the best at experiences, right? Like,
I mean, I feel like you are.
Yeah,
you can't say that, but you are. You can say it on here. Yeah. This has been insane.
I want to make it measurable, right? Like, I want to put data behind that, but I would put our experiences up against any other ambassador experience program ever. And not only because of the people, but because of the animals too. To the conservation funnel point, like that's the other difference is we just have a little bit different of a goal. I see conservation as the same as a marketing funnel. So you got to have awareness. You can't want to save a binturong if you don't know what a binturong is, right? If you've never heard of one. And then you have to have interest. So we've got to get you engaged in deciding, like, binturong are my favorite animal. I think binturong are cool. And then maybe I can get you to take action. The normal zoo, their goal is to get as many people in the top of the funnel as possible. They're converting a small amount of those to action. Our goal is to narrow that funnel. So we want less people in the top, but a higher percentage of them moving all the way through to, like, we would love for someone to leave here at the end of an ultimate weekend and take some sort of action or behavior change that's pro-environmental or pro-animal. Make a donation, plant a tree, plant a pollinator garden, reuse anything, so it's different goals, and not one is wrong. Like, it's not wrong to get a ton of people in the funnel. Like, we need both. And I think that's, unfortunately, our industry is small. We're competitive. And I think sometimes we're like, well, we don't know how to say, like, we're not going to do that. That's not us. But it's not wrong. Right.
No, absolutely. And I think, obviously very focused on the conservation side of things, love conservation. But I do know, like, I was working towards a master's in conservation biology, and I didn't really love the program I was in, so I'm not in it anymore. But a lot of the research that I was doing at the time was, I couldn't find anything about this, and I didn't have enough time to put the time in. But, like, I kind of wonder with certain things, you talk about the negative aspect of it. And, like, a great example is, like, okay, there's the no sloth selfie campaign going on right now because people will want sloths as pets if they see a sloth selfie. And first of all, I think if you do some captioning and do some writing on stuff, you can educate while having a sloth selfie. It's not the end of the world, right? Cool. But also, I do wonder how many people are actually going to be tempted to get a pet sloth versus how many people will just learn and see the positive and the good stuff and the educational stuff that you post without thinking, oh, I should get one. And then even if you do think that you should get one, who would go into the illegal wildlife trade and who have the money and all of that, like, it's such...
be able to do it.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I am saying maybe the one outweighs the other. Yeah. And I looked for research on that and I couldn't find it. Everything that I found was based on any comment on Instagram. And, like, I'll tell you, obviously I went super viral with this video of me drumming with an elephant, right? And, like, the number one comment on it was people saying, I want to hire an elephant for my band now. They don't. It's
right.
I mean, they want to.
Yes.
But they're not going to.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was interesting seeing that research myself and because I think about this a lot. When I did the sloth behind the scenes here, I took great video and great photos, but I didn't take a selfie because I had that on my mind. Then afterwards, I was like, first of all, I could have posted it with an educational thing. And second of all, I wish I had a sloth selfie. Just even for myself, why did I not take the time to do that? Because I believe I can reach my audience in a way that isn't going to make them run out and buy a bunch of sloths.
Right.
So I have some data on that has never been written.
Okay.
Two parts, actually. There is a paper I published about otters where we educated about otters in 3 different ways. So them on exhibit by themselves with no interpretation, them on exhibit with an interpretive guide, like a keeper talk, and then a meet and greet where you actually got to be up close and personal with otters. We asked the pet question, do you think otter would make good pet? We also asked, do you think any exotic would make a good pet? And there was no difference between our 3 data sets. Our data was leaning in the way that if you were in a meet and greet, you would be less likely, but it wasn't statistically significant.
Fair.
So need a bigger sample set. And then I also collected data from primate owners. So monkey moms and fox moms were the big 2 groups that I infiltrated, and asked them, what made you want to get this?
Right.
And the answers were, I want somebody to love me forever, right? So I want that unconditional love and that forever child. Or it was cool. I'm like, it was a status symbol. There was one person out of 150 people that said, I saw it at a zoo, or I saw it in a situation like that. So to me, the data is there. It makes me so mad that, I didn't publish it and that nobody has published it yet. But it's there to say that if anything, it works in the opposite direction. And I agree with you. The research that's out there is based on Facebook and Instagram. Even the Sloloris study, all of those things are based on people say dumb stuff. They don't mean it, you know, or I want a monkey as a pet. I know better.
Right.
But would there be moments that was cool? Sure.
Yeah.
Would I do it? No.
I mean, I feel since this is our 17th year and we've done literally, I don't know if it's millions, but I know it's over 1 million interactions on the Lemur Island, because we track it every single year. And I mean, with that reasoning, there should be hundreds, if not thousands, of families with lemurs now.
In Wichita.
Well, yeah, Wichita or wherever.
Hot spot.
But I don't I'm not going to venture to say that nobody has tried to get their hands on a lemur since doing that. If just logically, if that were true, there should, like I said, hundreds or thousands of people with lemurs now in private hands that aren't, I guess,
that we inspired.
Yeah, that we inspire. Right. And it's not there. But I do think, I think you interviewed Dr. Sam, and part of the reason that, that vision, recruiting her and hiring her was that we really there isn't much research out there about these. There is some talking about interactions, but there's a lot of, I guess, bad information put out mostly by AR groups that, it's harmful to the animals or inspires these things. And there's no counter studies, and they don't have studies to begin with. Right. They just say stuff.
Right.
And so I think as an industry, it's something that we're really lacking. I know ZAA is starting to do more of, but I think as institutions, we definitely need to do more of, and showing, I guess, support for these connections and how powerful they are for people. And honestly, if we want to save this industry and do this for the next generation or two, we're going to need more of that.
Yeah. And you need to do it right, which again is something I love here. There was one facility that I checked out. So my rule is I only have accredited facilities on the podcast. AZA is great. ZAA is great. Cool. Beyond that, we're gonna look. And there have been 2 unaccredited facilities that enough people like that work at AZA facilities and stuff have recommended to me to go check out. They said, they're choosing to stay independent for their reasons, but we like them, blah, blah, blah. So the first one I had on was Bright's Zoo, and they actually are now ZAA. And when I went there, I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of every ZAA facility I've been to. This is great, whatever. And the second one, I'm not going to say who it was, but I went to check it out first because I'm going to go and check out an unaccredited place before I have them on the podcast. And I was pretty pleased. I was pretty impressed. And I did one of their animal encounters, and it was with an animal that didn't want to cooperate, didn't want to do the encounter. And they were grabbing it and ripping it from its home. And I was tearing up. I was fighting so hard, and I almost left, but I didn't. I was like, I'm worried that if I do this, it will make up, like they'll do more to show the other people in the room, like, no, this is fine, because I was the only animal person in the room. And so I sat through it. And the animal, I will say, once they got out for the encounter, they were fine. They were actually very engaged. It reminded me of the kid that doesn't want to get in the tub and then doesn't want to leave, kind of thing. But I literally had like tears in my eyes, and I was like, I wanted to yell, like, get your hands off this animal. And that is the problem, because one experience like that, can then make, when you see an ad at Tanganyika, swim with our penguins. Oh, so they're going to grab penguins and throw them in. Meanwhile, first of all, you don't swim with the penguins. The penguins swim with you. Right. But also, they are so well cared for. It is such a different thing. But I do think that, Tiger King and all of that stuff have definitely scared people away from encounters. But I also think that this industry learns the wrong lessons. I think it happened with Blackfish. A lot of facilities were like, okay, we need to shut people out from behind the scenes. We can't show them that, like, these animals live in concrete because they're actually fine with what they got, whatever. We can only show them on their beautiful habitats. Whereas I think that if SeaWorld, which I think is a fantastic facility, had been transparent about their behind the scenes orca areas and stuff, then when Blackfish came out, anybody who watched it could have compared it with the videos and been like, oh, this isn't actually footage from SeaWorld, which a lot of it was not, And it was the lack of transparency that made it more believable that it was SeaWorld doing that stuff when a lot of it wasn't. And so, like, I love the transparency. One of my favorite things, I've said this a couple times now in these episodes, but I have to say it again, is that when I was invited out here, there was nothing. There was no contract. There was no agreement. There was no, you will only say good stuff. There was no, you will give us 4 reels and 2, and that's fine. And that's part of how the influencer thing works now. And I get it. I've never gone that road yet, but y'all provided a heck of a lot of stuff for us with no guarantee that I'm not going to get on a podcast and rail against y'all, and just stood by your work. And it, I will tell you, has led to so much more. I'm going to keep sharing more because I'm now in love with this place. I am passionate about it, and I don't owe you anything. Right. So you're going to get more from me because now we're just partners. Now we're just friends. Now we're all chilling. And I just want to promote the heck out of it because it's being done right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that is awesome. And I think, the transparent, like, we're very transparent about a lot of stuff at the park, with not only with our team, as much as we can with the public. I think in the industry, especially when you get into some private facilities, there's definitely, and we suffer from it still. It's not like we're 100% open book, but like, just really protecting yourself, right? Because you just never know what's going to be that one thing that an AR group can latch onto and make your life miserable or end all the hard work that you've done for the animals. And so I know within the private people, there's a lot of that. And so we in general, like, yeah, we're behind the scenes a lot. We're showing you what we have and we take care of it. We're proud of it and we're willing to show it. And like, let's not do anything that we're not willing to kind of show people behind the scene or be able to explain or, and so I think it's a big part of what we try to do. So it's awesome that that's evident, like, in your experiences.
Yeah, big time. And I think it's because you do so much experiential stuff, you guys have to be good in front and behind the scenes because you're taking people back there every day. And yeah, not all of them are going to know the stuff that I know, but you're also going to notice, really dirty places. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're animals. It's going to be messy from time to time. But you know what I mean? Like uncared for situations or bad situations or an animal sick in the corner or something. You will see that. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's such a, I don't want to use the word forced level of transparency, but the way that y'all are set up you have to have that transparency. And it's cool. I never once was somebody like, don't film, don't shoot back here, don't take camera shot, whatever. Yeah. It's always, okay, and can we set you up for a photo? And can we do this? And it's awesome,
Yeah, because every zoo has areas, that especially if you're higher, like you all have areas that you don't love as much, right?
Course,
and there's definitely areas we would definitely improve or will improve at some point, continue to improve. But yeah.
Well, and it's all contextual as well. I worked for a facility, and one of our sister facilities had someone who did a podcast, came out, got themselves behind the scenes. They were actually an animal rights activist. They took photos in holding. They did not allow photos in holding. And when the photo came out, I was like, I would put that on a billboard. Like that, it was a tiger. It was laying on his bench. The area was pristine. He had this lovely cush fire hose bench that he was laying on. He looks super healthy, very calm and content. Obviously, there's a stranger in his space taking the photo, and he's just like, no stress response, no locked on target, no nothing, just. And I was like, that's a happy tiger. And I don't like to use that word. That's a happy tiger in an awesome habitat. I would put that on a billboard. But that company had been very secretive and hidden and not transparent for protecting themselves, worried that somebody would do just that. And yeah, I think I learned a lot from that, because I was like, well, had we just been saying like, look, this is what a happy tiger looks like, and educating them on how we know or decide if an animal is happy or not, and inputs and outputs and welfare and all that great stuff, they would not have, to your point about SeaWorld, they don't have nearly as much runway as they do. So both Matt and I pushed a lot for that. It makes us uncomfortable sometimes. And even the team at certain points. And there's still times where we're not 100% comfortable sharing, animal loss on social media or things like that. One of the most recent things that we did is there might be times where we as a company don't feel comfortable sharing something on social media, or just don't see the point in it. But we have created an SOP for our team so that they can still share it on their pages. And so like, this is what it looks like to share it in a professional way versus this is what we'd rather not see. And so still trying to find that compromise of like, if we're not going to share every move, every acquisition, disposition, birth, death, whatever, illness, sickness, every milestone of life. But we see that that's important for your healing, your grieving, your celebration. Here's how you do it in a way that supports us, the animal, the industry, and all of those things.
That's really cool. I really like that. And yeah, I don't think that transparency means telling everyone everything. Just like in our lives, we can all be transparent with people, but I'm not telling you everything that's happening.
Right.
I got some stories, y'all. And I think that's something that a lot of people in the social media age, they feel that they're owed everything. But that's just not possible. You guys post more than almost any facility I know. And even with that, you can't tell everything. There are so many animals, like so many cheetahs just right out there. Like you just can't do that. And I think sometimes, especially, AR groups and stuff like that, they use that to say like, oh, you're not being transparent because we heard that, a whatever died. It's like, well, yes, but we also announced this and we also announced this. And if we announced every time that a Madagascar hissing cockroach died, our socials would just be really effing sad. Right. Like aquariums that have, get GPOs and they live a year because they live a year. And that's what happens. If you announce every one of those, people are going to be like, oh, you guys kill octopus because they don't know. And yeah, it's a weird balance. Yeah. But I think that transparency is not telling everything, but also not being ashamed of who you are. And that's something I think y'all nail.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's one of our core values. So yes.
Nice. Good. So, since we have the bigwigs here, let's talk about your team a little bit. Because again, I have been supremely impressed. And so what goes into the team building here, and what sets the culture apart here?
I mean, I think from the beginning, when Matt and I first met, we met at a conference, and the first time we met, I was talking about connections through ambassador experiences and how important those are and how they should be done right. And then the next time I was talking about culture and how you are the problem. I was talking to a room full of zoo directors and owners and curators. I'm like, you guys are the problem. And Matt was like, you have to come here. I've never met anyone in the industry that thinks about culture the way you do, and it's the way I do. And so we saw so much eye to eye on what leadership was, what culture was, what supporting our team was. And I think both challenge each other to continue to be better at that. Matt's very I'll let you talk about, you decided to come here so that you could be intentional about culture. But, we continually improve on, you talked about how all of our team is guest focused. You don't get to work here if you don't want to interact with guests, right? There's not a position here where that is a comfortable spot because everybody has to do it. So if that's not your jam, you're going to be uncomfortable at some point. So you better know, this is a deal breaker. When we're hiring, we share our deal breakers. So we talk about why people quit, why people leave, what they're going to hate, why they're not going to want to work here, what's going to make them go storming to the bar to be like, can you believe, we want you to know that before you get here so that you can make the decision whether or not that's a deal breaker for you or something that you enjoy. We also share, when everyone hires on, we share the stages of team development, their expectations that they're going to go through a storming phase with their team where they're not going to get along and they're going to have to jockey for position and decide what's happening. And 6 months in, we send another letter out that's like, hey, you're probably at your 6-month honeymoon, where you're like, what did I do? Why did I work? Why do I want to work here again? That's normal. So we try to set really good expectations. That's my jam. I believe in bridging the gap between leadership and frontline staff through communication and us getting better at communicating, making animal people. If I had a slogan, that's probably my slogan. But Matt and I were already using a lot of the same language, like assume best intent, seek to understand, and what's within your circle of influence. And so we were already geeking out on the same stuff. So I think combining our philosophies together is what drives the culture, but then we need our people to believe it, buy it, and live it every day, right? It can't just, Matt talks about the inverted pyramid. We are at the bottom of the pyramid holding everybody up and supporting everybody. And that's, I hope that our team feels that. That's sure how we try to be intentional. We're also human, so we screw up. But in general, we want to, servant leadership is our philosophy. But Matt left. Matt made a decision to come run a zoo, leaving a very personally profitable job, because he's that passionate about culture. So.
Yeah, and so when I left and we started building Tanganyika, it was around, we started the process, I guess we were opening around 2007. And even though we had been breeding animals for a long time, and we did some backyard tours, we weren't a zoo, right? So my first experience, and in my mind, part of the reason I left is I got the opportunity to build this organization and create this culture. Because the place I was at that paid me a lot more money, the culture was terrible. It was any stereotypical toxic culture that you want to, throw up that is where I was. And so I was like, I want to do it from the ground up. Turns out it is way harder than you think. And so I was reading a lot of books and trying to learn, trying to grow as a leader. And at the time, there was definitely people that I was trying to build a zoo, and different zoo directors around the country, people we looked up to, I looked up to, on just trying to get advice. How do you gift shop and concessions or whatever it was, just different areas, because I was more operations side. My dad did more of the animal side at that time, but when it came to people and culture, all these people that I had looked up to, like you'd quiz them and they just like, I don't know. It is what it is kind of thing. And, it's a lot like your animals, right? If you don't work them, if you don't train them, they're just these, if you didn't do anything with them, they'd be this wild beast, right? And they end up being the way they are. You have to be very intentional and train and work with them and groom. And so I'm trying to figure it out. I feel like I'm out here in the middle of the ocean trying to figure all this out. And then, here's Lynnlee on her cruise ship. I'm like, oh my God. So, so I was like, yes, please come join me and let's party on the ocean. But, and we're in Kansas, so we're nowhere near the ocean.
I could not love this analogy more, given that we are again.
I don't know where it's going, but, so yeah, I was like, here's somebody else that gets culture, that is, does an awesome job at communicating it and could help me build it. And so I started recruiting her back to Kansas, and she joined more in that connections role where she was helping facilitate all the experiences and really building those up, because we were only doing maybe a couple experiences when she started, and that was an area that I knew we definitely wanted to grow. And so she really started there, but definitely transitioned into more of this integrator role where she's really building the culture at the park and trying to take all my crazy ideas and make them happen. So, but yeah, it's, as far as what I think, it starts with our core values. We love first, own it, grow or die, and then refuse to lose. Those are our 4 core values that really define the environment of the park. Right. And, we like to talk about, if you're a plant, that's our jungle, if you will. Like that's the environment we are. So if you're a cactus, you're not going to do very well in this environment, but you're going to thrive in a desert. And so,
but not in the ocean that we are in.
Not in the ocean. No, it's a cruise ship, so we can plant you somewhere. So, you're going to be seaweed, I guess. That's where you're going to do well. So yeah, like that. And I think within our industry, there's toxic and red flag, all this stuff all the time. And I think a lot of times, people just end up in the wrong environments. Like it's not a good fit for them. And you see sometimes too, where they want to, it's almost like a marriage, right? Like you're uprooting your life, moving to a whole new city, all that goes around that, all the emotion that goes around that, and so like, yeah, we want to be very clear with you. Like, here's the deal breakers. Here's what this environment is all about. Like if you share these core values, you are going to thrive here. If you don't, I'm not going to say you're not going to grow or that you aren't going to survive, but it's not going to be fun. And so, really understanding who you are and the kind of environment that you are, I think is important. It took us a few years to really dial that in. And I don't know if you're ever done with that, but then being able to communicate that with, so you learn who you are, and then you have to be able to find people that will thrive in those environments. And so through the hiring process and, those kinds of things, you can slowly build an incredible culture, but it takes time.
I should also, I feel like I would be amiss if I did not say that there are a lot of people out there who have worked at Tanganyika before who would be like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah.
That culture sucked. Right?
Really? Okay.
There was...
Talking about transparency.
Yeah. There was many years where it wasn't great while we were trying to figure it out. And then, I think there's a misconception that culture is passive for the employee, that it's you're a victim to it, right, or you're a recipient of it, one or the other, but you don't have any active ownership in it. And I think so that is also a challenge. We can think everything that we want, but like we need you to engage in that for it to work. And so that part of it is still in the works, right? And then keepers are young and new. Typically I sure as heck didn't know who I was, what my values were, what was important to me when I started in this industry. So there's also this discovery, like I can tell you what our deal breakers are and you're like, yeah, I think I can handle that. And then you get here and you're like, no, I hate that.
Right.
You know, like, and I'm going, well, I told you so, you know, but you don't know that,
right.
you know, like, so I am very proud of our culture. I love our team. I think I would put up our team. I say it's better than everyone else because I'm a little competitive in that way. And I don't know if you're catching on to that, but there are definitely people who were cactus and maybe that's not fair because that's like an analogy that they're like prickly, right? But that didn't thrive in this environment. And there's definitely people we did a disservice to. We weren't there as leaders. We hadn't grown as leaders. We didn't know how to provide for them, that we've failed. So that's something we're constantly fighting because we're changing really fast here. And, when there's a job posting up, you'll see people that are like, ooh, like ask me. And your comment that you made once about like, if you think we have more red flags than a putt-putt course, keep on moving. Like, but and I think that goes for all facilities. Everyone is growing and changing. Everyone is trying to provide better wages for their keepers. Everyone is trying, even if it doesn't feel like it, they are trying. And so you cannot take the word of someone who worked at a facility 5 to 7 years ago and feel like you have a good idea, maybe not even 3 years ago, have a good idea of what their culture is at that moment.
I think that's true. I think it's also true that teams vary a lot. I've been to facilities, again, not going to name any names, but where like anyone who I think is good at training, I would recommend for this one particular team at a facility. But I would also tell everyone that I like to stay the heck away from another team at the same facility. But they're just night and day. And those two teams even have, internal conflict at said facility. And I've seen a lot of it. And so I think that makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot to that. The interesting thing about it to me, here is just how much the culture stands out to me doing this a lot. I was, Zoe and I were talking earlier. And so I have a son who lives in Pennsylvania who I see fairly regularly, try to see him as much as I can. And he's 10 right now. And if he was older, I would be pushing to, I want to come work here. I really do. And, Zoe's a vet. And maybe in a couple of years, as you guys are looking to expand, maybe that'll be a time. But I find myself, I am a person who, came into this animal world from a weird place. I'm a drummer and I've worked my way into this through the podcast, but now I volunteer for conservation organizations and I volunteer at different facilities, Aquarium of Niagara and the stuff at Wildlife World we were talking about and everything. And I've done hands-on training with a bunch of species and all this stuff now. And I keep debating, because I also really love drumming and touring. And I'm like, but do I want to be in this industry or not? And this is the first place where I have genuinely felt, even before talking to y'all here for this, that this would be a place that would know how to use the Rossifari side of me and build the training side and all that stuff. And I feel like I could contribute to a team here. Now, love you guys, not moving out to Kansas right now. But maybe in a few years, who knows?
That is one of the hardest, but it's one of the hardest sells. We get all the weather, all the pollen zones, all the wind.
I think you might be able to convince Zoe to come out and join your vet team right now if we can stay in this house.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's I don't know, it's
part of my recruitment package, not this house, but there was we have somewhere for you to stay. So I
made it as easy as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, like I said, that was mentioned with Sam too. It's interesting to me that you seem to know what you want and what you're looking for and go out and fight for it in a world in an industry where a lot of people, I do agree with you that everyone's trying to do better. No, that's not true. I don't agree with you. I hope everyone is trying to do better. And I think most places are.
Yeah.
But I do also know that it is a industry of passion. And mine is too, and it's very hard. And I will tell you, there are a whole lot of gigs that I don't get offered because somebody's going to do them for $400 a week, and that kind of thing happens. And whatever, I'm doing fine. But I do think there are places that do a lot of that and have the attitude of like, well, if I can't get this person, who gives a crap? There are 20 other people and new graduates every year, and there are only so many zoos. And hearing about how you've gone after people in a good way. That's a weird way to phrase it. You know what I mean? But how you have yes, exactly. Yes. No, but hearing about that is really cool because it sounds like you really find the people you want and find ways to make it work. And that's just really special. This is the first time I have ever been at a facility where I was 100% like, God, I feel like I could work there. Mm-hmm. I feel like, because I don't know, I'm in such a weird little place in my own world and in my own head and insecure about how I came into this world and everything, you know, that it's really cool that I feel that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I could not have loved this trip more. And, I came into it with as little knowledge as possible and with an open mind, but also, like I said, very ready to, my audience knows I will be honest. If I see a problem, I'm going to point it out. And if the facility hates me for it, there are other zoos. But, you know, I try to work with places if I see something, but like, no, but this has been the most amazing experience, and we want to come back, and we want to, I'm dead serious that, you know, in a couple of years, maybe when you guys are ready to do the safari park, the drive-through thing that I've been hearing rumors about, we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you might need another vet at that time or something, you know, Zoe loved it here too. We both have this attitude that like, we're both like, holy cow, this is incredible. And that's really special.
Yeah. Awesome.
You know, I've been to, between zoos, aquariums, rescues, rehabs, all that stuff, like 180. You know, and to walk into a place and be like, no, this is actually like feels like home is really special. But let's talk about the plans for the future and the hopes for the future.
So I mean, you know, we're 17. This is our 17th year as a zoo, wildlife park. I mean, we're trying to get like we're not a zoo or something different, but our 17th year, and I think we're a teenager, you know, and a lot of that kind of figuring out who we were, discovery, all that has happened a lot this last couple of years. But I think
we definitely went through middle school.
Yeah, we got bullied a lot the last couple of years, and it's been a little rough. But you know, again, through any of that, you grow and you learn, and you know, we transitioned to a new model this year where we're all like this all inclusive, and we kind of replicated the Discovery Cove model, you know, SeaWorld's Discovery Cove, but doing more of a terrestrial version. You know, no lazy rivers or dolphin swims, unfortunately, yet. So you come, and the idea was to create, you know, I love the atmosphere there as far as this carefree timelessness where you can really connect with your family. Not as many opportunities to connect with the animals beyond the dolphin swim, and obviously here, that's a huge part of what we do is the connecting to the natural world as well. But and so we made that transition. But as far as, you know, next phase, we're working on a new animal experience center that'll allow us to facilitate more meet and greets and behind the scenes and bigger numbers, like not like thousands of numbers, but like right now in our sloth behind the scenes, you can barely fit 6 people in there. Like, and it's kind of like
I can't even imagine how you can fit 6.
Yeah,
there were 3 of us. And
I think we cap it at 6 because that's a rough. So the new room would hold maybe 10, right? Like, and just more comfortably. So it's not like you're going to have tons and tons of people, but just it actually centralizes a lot for our animal experience team where instead of animals being scattered all over the park and have them take them to the room where you do the meet and greet, they'd all be like located right there. Again, still the idea from Columbus Zoo and their Animal Encounters Village, right? Like most everything here at the park, honestly, there's very little that's 100% original.
I'm so glad you said that. Oh my God.
Yeah, like
so we were here and we were talking through stuff early on, right? And when I got here, I'm not gonna lie, I had this little bit of like, okay, they brought us out here. This is kind of a big deal, you know. And Zoe was like, oh my gosh, it's like they stole this from Nashville, and oh my gosh, this is like they stole this from Columbus. And I was like, shut up, don't say bad. What if people hear you? That's gonna be so bad. Meanwhile, you guys were like, yeah, we stole this from Columbus.
What did we steal from Nashville?
Bathroom exhibit.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, bathroom exhibits. You are correct.
In fairness, Nashville stole the kangaroo encounter from us.
Okay,
so Rick
fair.
Schwartz took that from us.
Fair.
So it's all fair. But I mean, the Lori encounter, like wildlife Wildlife World Zoo in Phoenix was like the first to really do a lot of lorry encounters.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we went around the world on our honeymoon, and kangaroo walkthroughs there are every zoo. Like we have petting zoo goats with goats, right? Like they're all over, and you can feed in theirs. And I was like, why aren't we doing this in the States? And so we brought that back. Lemur walkthroughs are very common in Europe, and so again, why aren't we doing lemur walks? So we're just taking the coolest, best stuff from all over the world and trying to put it in one location so you have this incredible, amazing experience. I was going to say 1 day, but honestly, we have people spend 3 days here doing stuff. So, like, case in point.
I mean, we did 2 days of full encounters. Plus, I got to do some cool stuff today in between the interviews. But, there's still stuff we didn't do. There were people that I was talking to, like, on staff, and they were like, oh, my gosh, did you do this one? And I was like, no. How many days would you have to be
You're holding out on us. Yeah. Well, we McRib it a little, like it's off the menu and we bring it back on the menu. But yeah, it's, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. Where was I going with all that?
You were saying you were building the Animal Experience Center, and then...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, you guys are such a good team.
Combining that. So that'll like make that village kind of tie that all in together and enhance a lot of those encounters and experiences. And then, the safari park, we have about 40 to 50 acres that we want to build it'll be drive-through in that, like, you'll take a trackless train, or you can take a truck like you would at maybe Animal Kingdom and Disney. Or I'm really hoping to build a kayaking experience through the middle of it where...
Like Brevard, yeah.
So
that's incredible.
So instead of just around the one island, like, it'll be through the whole safari park. Okay. And, like you're on the Zambezi in Africa. I think it'll be pretty phenomenal. And then, with that, an event center, some, walk through African exhibits, a new eating space where we'll call it the commissary, where it'll have a glass wall. So on the back side is all the animal diets, and on the front side is all the people diets.
Oh my gosh.
So there's just a lot of like really cool stuff. A safari camp right in the middle, kind of recreating one of my parents' favorite camps in Africa. We're going to try and recreate that in the middle of the safari park. And then, adding some lodging and some other stuff later, just so that people that are traveling here have a place to stay, because we're on the edge of Wichita. So, but other than the 2 hotels in Goddard, technically, you're 5 to 7 miles away from any stay. So having something a little closer, other than this house, which doesn't fit a whole lot of people, would be good. So.
Fits 2 people really well if you each want to sleep in a different bedroom every night.
You said cleaning here or staying here, but this house actually has 12 bathrooms in it. And I don't know if Zoe wants to clean that many bathrooms. Maybe you have to clean that many bathrooms. I don't know that anyone wants to clean that many bathrooms.
So Zoe's favorite thing is cleaning. So actually, I think that would be relaxing for her. Yeah, even the 11 we didn't use, she'd be like, I cleaned this bathroom today. No, that's awesome. That all sounds incredible. That's so cool. I am happy to come back as those things open up and feature them.
Try them out.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it is, I guess it's important. Like, our 10-year target is to do 1 million wow moments in a single year. And a wow moment for us is typically defined as an animal interaction. So, we want to be able to facilitate a million of those in 1 year. Now, whether those are all at this facility or maybe we have some new additional facilities other places around the country, who knows what'll happen. But we want, that's our 10-year target. So everything that we're doing expansion-wise is focused through that lens, right? It has to be creating these wow moments that instill lifetime memories for people. And if we can't do that, then we're probably not going to build it. We're not going to do it. So everything is focused on that, creating these awesome, unbelievable experiences for people.
It's so funny to me how the things that you guys are saying in this room keep reflecting what I just experienced for the last couple of days, like almost to a ridiculous level. Like I said, like where Zoe and I have literally talked about things. And that's another one. I do this stuff all the time. And we were going through photos and Zoe's like, look at your face. Look at your stupid face in these photos. You are having such a good time. And, if I had $1 for every time I fed a giraffe, like I said, whatever. But in that moment, I'm like, I'm so, and it's so obvious in the pictures and the videos, and we keep laughing about it. And it's exactly what you're saying, though. They are true wow moments, and you can see it in my entire face. And as somebody who does, I can't even imagine coming into the last 2 days that I've had, 3 days that I've had now, as somebody who hasn't done this stuff I'd be dead. I would just be a puddle of joy out in the park that you guys would have to mop up. And like, I'm not saying this to kiss butt. It's just the truth. Anyone who listens to this podcast knows I love this stuff. I get excited all the time, but like, I also have resting bee face, and I also, sometimes forget to talk. And just to see those photos and hear you describe them as wow moments and be like, yep, no, I have pictures that back what you're saying right now of my stupid face just lit up like a 12-year-old boy just being like, this is so cool. It's
we'll take all of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put them in the marketing.
There will be many shared posts. Yes. No, it's just funny. I go to facilities and I do interviews and I go and explore them, or I go and explore them and then I do interviews. And sometimes you have this connection where it's like, yes, you get exactly what you're saying. And then sometimes it's like, you and I see your park very differently, and that's fine. And I'm still learning, and like, that's cool. Like there's, maybe I miss things or whatever, but, to have this weird moment where you keep saying stuff and I'm like, oh yes, this was my experience of that. Oh yes, Zoe and I saw that and discussed that, has been really special. It's awesome. A nice cap to all of this. Is there anything else that either of you want to say before we get rolling here?
I feel like we hit a lot of it's a lot of the things that are important to us, but I think it's just great this has been really reinforcing for me. To hear, you can dream it, you can want it, you can be trying to do it, but to have the affirmation come back that like hey, what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
Like as leaders, and for anyone listening who has a leader, they don't get told they're doing a good job very often. So give them a shout out, let them know that what they're doing is working. So it's been nice to hear like, hey, what you're doing is working. Or I see what you're doing. That has meant a lot. So thank you for giving us that opportunity.
Thank you. Definitely. So I just had a thought when you're talking and I've lost it.
Oh, no.
Dang it.
It's me.
No, you're fine.
Well, if it comes back to you, we can always edit it in. But otherwise, before we get going, our last two are conservation organization you'd like to each give a shout out to?
I space it Giraffes.
Giraffe Conservation Foundation?
Yeah, GCF.
Yeah, they're great. They were on the pod, and we love Steph Fennessy and all of that. Yeah, they do amazing work.
Yeah. So obviously we're a big giraffe facility, and so definitely they're doing good work and want to support them.
Mine would be Eden Reforestation. They're one of the only places working in Madagascar to reforest, and they work with the local populations to become protectors of the forest and plant trees that not only help the habitats but also help the people who live there too. So I love their mission. They work in a lot of different places, but it's my lemur tie to Madagascar.
Cool.
It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show, but there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
I know mine if you need
Go. Yeah, I'll need a minute.
So mine goes back to Moore Park. I was a Moore Park grad.
Nice, love it there.
There was a mandrill there, Zulu, and he was somebody's pet before he came to the zoo. So,
a mandrill?
Uh-huh.
Come on, people.
They used to dress him up.
No.
Sit at the table. Anyway.
I have thoughts, but go ahead. I'm sure you do too. Yeah.
I do too. They loved him. So there's that.
Fair.
And he probably had a very nice life, but he had a bad habit of how he interacted with any Kong toys. And I won't go into like super details, but there was a lot of cleaning out of Kongs, of, mandrill stuff, not poop.
No. I'm with you on this. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And
I know a lot of animals that love their Kongs.
Yeah, not like this. This is different. Yeah, this is a different kind of love. And even on his decking, having to use a knife to scrape that substance out of the grooves between the decking boards. That's probably the grossest.
That's one of my favorite I've ever had on the podcast.
Beat mandrill.
So I was going to say,
I can't touch that. I don't
follow
even
that
know. It's I haven't been in the barns in such a long time, but I was young, so I think I just did a lot of stuff that I just didn't even think about it at that time. But that's lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lame.
I'm really gonna have to work on that.
feel
So like you can maybe add that back in.
I feel like your poop story would have to do with the splash park, and cleaning up human poop. Like that's a different.
Well, I mean,
level.
I've done that. Like people are animals, right? Like you just never you never thought like, yeah, you get like a Code Orange and someone just crapped in the corner of the bathroom. Like they're in the stall with the toilet, but they just picked an opposite corner and took a dump. And like that's happened multiple times. It's not like it happened once. Like it's happened multiple times. And so you're cleaning up shit. Or I mean, in the splash park, because then it gets super runny and then you're really trying to like clean it. So I mean, it's probably been human feces.
I feel like human stuff is so much worse just because we know it's humans and we know that they know better, you know? I'll never forget my first weekend in college. And I was not at a place where I should have gone to college. I should have taken a break, whatever. But 18 years old, went off to college, was not ready for this in any way. And the first Monday morning, I walked into the bathroom in my dorm. And drunk people had been partying the weekend before and had just crapped everywhere. I mean, it was smeared on stall walls and on the bathroom windows. And I was just like, I can't do this. And I think right then I should have called my parents and been like, I am not ready to be here because I knew that. I knew that already. But instead it took a very rough semester for me to figure that out. And that's okay. But I will never forget that. I to this day can picture it and can smell it. And I would rather pick up
any animal.
I would rather clean up mandrill jizz than walk into that bathroom again. Yeah. So I get it. Yeah.
I was gonna say earlier, again, it very reinforcing. So that was the thing that we, the new model and the transition, like where we've been headed. I feel like in some ways it's been trailblazing, right? Like there's nothing else like it. I've had other very traveled directors and stuff just say this is a very unique experience. There's nothing else like it in the world, which I kind of blew my mind a little bit. But for locals, especially, it's been a tough transition, right? Like we're the first to do something. And a lot of times when you're the first, you get chastised, you get told you're crazy, that it's never going to work, that, some of them are even like, we hope you fail just to prove that it won't work, right? Which our fourth core value with refuse to lose, just the two of us, it fires us up. It's like, all right,
hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Here we go. So it doesn't work on us, but it's not like you're immune to it. And so all the stories and testimonials you shared were like amazing. Like that was just it was just incredible to hear all of that and to see that, yes, where we're headed, where we've been working towards, it's coming to fruition and we're achieving it. So that's awesome.
You are.
Thank you so
and it
much.
makes so much sense with the funnel thing. When you said the funnel thing and how we do need those zoos, the other kind, the normal kind, the kind I talk to all the time and love and adore and we'll be at tomorrow and the next day and it's all great. I love it. Pushing everyone in and then you're at that was really, I'm going to be thinking about that a lot. That was very cool.
She's amazing at that.
Yeah, that was very cool. But y'all are nailing it.
Awesome. Thank you.
So thank you guys for doing this and thank you for all of this. This has been an insane 3 days.
We're happy to host you. So thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
All right. So there you have it, folks. The bigwigs at Tanganyika talking all about culture and about animal encounters. And I just think to me, that was one of the most interesting episodes I've ever put out. Those are all topics that I'm super passionate about and that I feel like are super relevant in the industry right now. And I thought there were some really cool takes on all of that. I'm guessing you could tell because I basically couldn't shut up because I was so excited to talk about it all. But I do again want to, thank the entire team at Tanganyika for hosting us and giving us such an incredible trip, but also for just being who they are. And, I mentioned towards the end of the episode that funnel concept again. And, I mentioned I'd be thinking about it a lot, and I have been, and I've actually talked to a lot of people at other facilities about it. I find it fascinating, this idea that zoos and aquariums in general can work as the top of the funnel, but then what do you do for the next level? How do you inspire the people that were inspired by a zoo trip or an aquarium trip or whatever to go deeper and to connect more. And how do you connect with those people at their level? And that is what Tanganyika is doing. And I find that fascinating. Yeah, I'm really curious to hear what y'all thought about this episode. I think there were a whole lot of nuggets to chew on in this one, and so yeah, let me know what your thoughts were, and I look forward to hearing from you. I am going to take a moment now to say thank you to my patrons, and don't forget you can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari, and I especially want to say thank you to my Red Panda level patrons: Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. And with all of that said, we'll be back on Friday with a new episode of Zoo News. But until then, remember, friends, the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.